let's talk real quick about like kind of the philosophy of the customer is always right, and just kind of my thought that I have there is there's got to be a balance though, right? So if the customer is always right, they are until they're not, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell our employees is like, look, it's not okay to be abused. Right, like if people are going to start like cussing at you and start kind of being ugly with you, like that could be a line where like, you know what, like I'm not going to have you talk to me in that way. But in general, I would say like let's focus on how to like if a customer has an issue, it's like how do we resolve this for you? I think that there's a lot, and think maybe let's talk about what our first response would be is to listen and try to understand. And so we've had people, they'll call in, and I've seen it where, and to be honest, I've even been on the other side of it where I'm kind of frustrated with certain things, and I'll call a company. And there was a time not too long ago I ordered Christmas wreaths. I said it right. Okay, ordered some Christmas wreaths, and they sent them out immediately, but they didn't send the door hangers. They were on back order for 6 weeks, but they sent it all out. And I was like, well, I called the company and I explained. I was like, look, I appreciate the wreaths, but if I ordered the hanger and they're not going to be here for 6 weeks, then that's not going to help me. And he was like, okay. I was like, that's crickets. And I was like, well, but what I'm looking for is for you to help me with this situation. And he was like, okay. I was like, what about, and so I'm having to walk him through this instead of him doing the opposite. So I was like, well, why don't you, the other thing, I paid for overnighting. And so I'm like
it feels like it makes it worse.
Right, yeah, like I paid for it to be overnighted, and so I appreciate you guys getting the wreaths, but like 6 week back order for the hanger, I was like, you know what, I would prefer that you go ahead and credit me. And he was like, okay. So like the whole time, like just didn't care about it whatsoever. And I'll tell you, like, do you think that I'm probably going to go back to that company?
Likely not.
Not going to happen. I wouldn't. And so just kind of keep that in mind when you're dealing with this. I think you need to listen, find out like, you know, what upset them. You know?
Yeah, and I think if we kind of convert that to the language that we're speaking here, if you're on the receiving end of a complaint, we shouldn't respond the way that person responded to you. Instead, we've got to come up with, we have to have the ability to listen to them and really just, what I've learned to do is kind of just repeat what they are telling me. So after they've come to me with a complaint, I say, okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, this is the situation and this is where we are. And that's even when you made that phone call to that company, right? It probably would have made you feel a lot better rather if instead of that person just saying, okay, I don't know what you'd like me to do about it. Then you had to take the time to coach them through on finding a solution instead.
For their company, yeah.
Yeah, for their company. And so us as agents, that's our job. That's our duty, is to help them find a solution, or how are we going to help you get through this? What's the first step in getting this issue resolved? And there may be times where we can in fact resolve whatever complaint that they're coming to the table with, and there might be other times where we can't. But we don't. And if it's a situation where we can't, we probably don't want to lead with that. We don't want to say, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. You've got to call customer service. Like, that's probably at some point you'll probably have to, work that into the conversation, but I don't know that I'd immediately respond with that.
Yeah, I think let's go back. Like, that first response has to just be listening. And how do you do that? Like, literally, okay, I'm all ears. Like, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to listen to everything that you have to say. I'm going to respond back and kind of repeat and maybe even affirm you in your frustration, right? So, man, I can completely understand why you're so frustrated with this. To be real honest, like I can see how you feel. Like, I understand that you did not want such and such to happen. Let me figure out how we can help you. So I've communicated two things with that. One, that I'm listening, right? By repeating it back to them, I've communicated that I'm listening to what they're saying. And two, I've communicated right at the beginning that I'm gonna figure out how I can resolve this issue with them. And so one thing that we've got to do is, like you said, kind of diagnose the problem, like figure out, okay, what can we do to figure out how to resolve this problem, because I want to be the person that has a response for them, that will figure it out for them. And I don't want it to be a situation where I am just kind of like, okay, like figure out like what can we do to resolve this situation. So I'm going to try to think about maybe relationships that I have, like maybe you know, in the Medicare setting, like what like should I contact my upline to figure out how to resolve this situation? What can I do to truly resolve this situation?
So if you like this clip, do me a favor, click right up here so that way you can watch the full podcast, and then also click right up here for more content just like this.